Sugar beets, and so sugar, table sugar, genetically modified. Corn, 88% genetically modified. So that means anything that has cornstarch in it, or corn hull in it, or whatever is derived from these foods is from a genetically modified organism. Papayas, the Hawaiian papayas. I'm not really a papaya eater, but I think the Hawaiian papayas are those big ones, or no, those are the Mexican ones. So there's two types. You want to avoid ask if you're a papaya eater, ask if they were, where they were grown. Because if they were grown in Hawaii, half of them are genetically modified. And there are trials on other plants as well. This is just a short list, but some of them that are closer to being on your shelf than others, like zucchini and yellow squash. You only have the green and the yellow, and they're probably genetically modified. Milk. Yes?
Why did they start genetically modifying food?
It'll become clear on the next slide. Well, corporate greed is one of them, but milk, label. All right, these days children are going through puberty much earlier than they were in the past. Very young, I mean very young. I mean like when they're 6 years old, some of them. Maybe even they're going through puberty. That's not natural. Part of the problem could be chemicals that act like hormones that are in plastics that we consume. Part of the problem could be the fact like artificial growth hormones present in milk. So recombinant bovine growth hormone. When you buy your milk, whether or not it's organic, you should look for the label that says does not contain recombinant bovine growth hormone. Consumer pressure was so great that the milk industry is voluntarily labeling their milk to say that it doesn't have the recombinant bovine growth hormone in it. And you can vote by not buying something. And consumer pressure was so great that now a lot of the milks are making sure that they don't use cows that have been fattened by the use of recombinant growth hormone. A lot of food additives and enzymes are isolated from genetically modified organisms. Rennet is an enzyme. Its natural source is like the lining of the gut of a cow. Originally discovered, when people, shepherds or whatever, going around carrying their milk inside of a cleaned out cow, whatever bag made out of the guts, right? When they went to drink it, it was solid, right? Well, because it's solid, because there's an enzyme that results in coagulating the milk protein into cheese, into curds and whey, right? Well, so the natural source is an animal source. But these days, the vast majority of cheeses that are available in the U.S. are made with rennet, the enzyme that has been isolated from a genetically modified organism to mass produce the rennet enzyme. I'll get to your answer in the next slide. David Suzuki, famous geneticist, the author of the genetics textbook that I was taught from many years ago. He has his own foundation, the David Suzuki Foundation. He's a Canadian scientist. Any politician or scientist who tells you these products are safe is either stupid or lying. Okay? And he's a very trustworthy scientist. They haven't been adequately tested for any harmful effects upon human health or upon the safety and sustainability of our environment. One reason why Monsanto has created these seeds, when they first came out, I remember hearing talks when they were first under development. And they sounded great, it was going to make agriculture easier for the farmers, because anybody who's tried to grow their own food knows how difficult it is to grow food when weeds are competing with the food that you're trying to grow, right? And it sounded great. They're going to feed the world with this new technology. But, the consequences have been grim. The point of the Roundup Ready seed is they genetically engineer into the seed, they add genes, artificial DNA that make the plant that grows resistant to chemicals that kill plants, so herbicides. So what this means is the farmer gets the seed that can be poisoned without dying. And what that means to the farmer is he can use that poison on his fields and poison the fields to kill the weeds instead of using the plow and other earth-friendly mechanisms to get rid of the weeds. Just disperses poison on the fields, and the poison kills the weeds. And then once the weeds are gone, the poison's still there. And he can plant his seed that has the gene in it that protects it from being killed by the poison. And then it grows a crop with an abundant harvest that without competition from the weeds. And so that's like one of the major reasons why Monsanto is so wealthy. They have cornered the market on this seed that farmers rely upon, non-organic farmers rely upon to grow their food crops. The chemical herbicide that is used, that the plants resist, is called glyphosate. I don't have enough time to talk about all of the ramifications, but they, for a long time, have been saying it's safe. But they say that really without any type of testing. There's not, and there have been reports that not only does it does harm plants as well. Those plants might survive, but they're not healthy like they would have been otherwise. And there are reports that it has harmful effects in animals, causing tumors, cancerous tumors. Then also, this application of this chemical that is supposed to kill the weeds, eventually everything evolves. And if given enough pressure to evolve, it acquires changes that haven't been introduced by a scientist directly, but indirectly, because they acquire changes, and if the change allows the plant to survive in that environment, it will survive. It's natural selection. If the plant doesn't, if the change to its DNA harms it, it won't survive. If it doesn't have any effect, well, it's just kind of in a standard competition with everything else that's around. But in the presence, if a change happens, and it happens in a plant that happens to find itself in a field of poison, and that change allows it to resist that poison, right, then it can survive. So natural changes can occur, but it's near these other plants that have been engineered to have the genes. And you can't stop the wind from blowing, right? And so if the Roundup Ready plants are planted here, and there's some organic farmer here, and the wind blows, it's going to carry the seed. And that seed has been messed up by Monsanto scientists. And then the seed lands over here and commingles with these other plants, pollinates these, and then you get herbicide-resistant other crops. That could be poisoning the farmer's crop, and the weeds themselves can acquire resistance to the herbicide. So,
not only that, the company would have a claim on your
and they have
crop too,
and
because
they have
they
done
say
that.
you were using my.
And they have done that, and because they're a greedy corporate monopoly, they go around suing farmers whose crops have been contaminated by their seed, saying that you're using my GMO seed. So plants can develop resistance just by natural selection. They can also develop resistance by being crossed with the GMO crops that are next door. So that's the Roundup Ready, and safety is debatable. Another type of genetically modified crop. Okay, organic farmers can spray Bacillus thuringiensis toxin on the crops to
kill the